Welcome, everyone. I am super happy to welcome you to this month's On Track session. LinkedIn's and we're thrilled to have Eric Townley joining us. Oh no, my Zoom is going to crash.
It's a.
I'm crashing.
She's on there. Yeah.
I just heard her talking, so I was just ringing out loud.
Does that help?
No. Okay. This is not going well.
That's some brisket approach.
Did we lose Kristen?
Abducted by aliens.
All right. Well, I don't know if this will be helpful or not, but I can try and take over her quick introduction.
Yeah, I'm going to make you the host, Eric. So if I, for some reason, get kicked out again, the meeting should run without me. So,
Okay, you're still on. All right,
Okay.
Go ahead then.
Let's take number 2. I need one of those sandwich boards. All right, well, welcome everyone again to On Track for this month with the Middleton Chamber. We're super excited to have Eric joining us from Flamingo Theory Marketing, and we're going to talk about LinkedIn's and hashtags and TikTok. So I think I said it in the wrong order. I'm flustered, but and just a quick shout out to our sponsors today. So thank you to TDS and to Upper Iowa University for helping make this event happen. I've got a fantastic bio here for Eric, but I'm afraid that I'm going to crash if I read it. So I just want to mention, if you guys have questions throughout, please put them in chat and we'll be answering them as we go. And if Eric, you don't mind, why don't you start with just a quick intro so we can keep things rolling?
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, well, thank you very much to everyone for attending. I'm excited to see such a good turnout. I hope it's an entertaining, enjoyable, and informative topic. But essentially, kind of what I was looking to do out of this presentation is, we work with small business owners for all things digital marketing. One thing that commonly comes up is, I know I need to be doing more social media. I just don't have the time. I don't feel like writing the content. And so I just wanted to put together sort of like a little step-by-step guide you can follow where if you know what, you can carve out an hour of your week, throw it on your calendar and just say, this is my social media time for 1 hour. It's not that hard to get it tackled. It's just carving out the time, having the checklist, and kind of going through it. So that's really the goal of this presentation, is just some best practices, some how to sort of approach it from the most like professional, useful way possible, so you ensure that you're giving and getting some value to the social media communities out of it. Like Kristen said, feel free to toss questions out in chat as we go. She'll jump in if it's worth stopping the presentation for. I can take them during, otherwise afterwards I'll answer some questions after that. So before I jump in, I'll just give you a little bit of a quick background as to who I am. I haven't had a chance to meet and interact with all of you yet, but I'm super excited to get to know you. So I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Flamingo Theory Marketing. We're a full service digital marketing agency, really meant to do one thing, and that's help Madison area businesses with their online presence to stand unique. The first question I always get is what's Flamingo Theory about? And if you're from Madison, you've probably seen flamingos scattered around town. The thing that's really kind of wild about those is that back in the late 70s, early 80s, this group of pranksters filled Bascom Hill with a whole bunch of pink flamingos to kind of make a political statement, sort of practical joke. But it was such an important kind of moment in city history that the flamingo actually became the official city bird of Madison, which is crazy seeing as there aren't native flamingos here. But from a marketing standpoint, that's 100% marketing done right. If your marketing budget of 1,000 pink flamingos generates a message that lives on for 40 plus years, that's marketing done right. And so that's what we try to basically keep in mind throughout our company. We develop our campaigns that are different, impactful, and resonate. But more importantly, we try to be unique and innovative in every aspect of what we do. I'm Eric. I've been in marketing for 15 plus years, worked for some of the bigger ad agencies in the world, and worked client side for clients like Apple, Electronics, General Mills, working in the marketing departments, and have been fortunate since we've started the business to be able to grow a really excellent, fun, passionate crew to help kind of execute our digital campaigns. We do everything across the board on digital, from strategy to websites to paid and organic, but we'll talk about specifically social media today. So thanks for bearing with me there. What you're here for, the main event. Let's talk social media. So all the things that I'll go through is starting off, how to set your strategy and choose what platforms to focus on. We'll create and optimize your profiles. We'll talk a bit about the rule of thirds and why it's important. And then we will talk about how to build your content calendar and schedule your postings. And then, how to listen to, understand, and engage with your audience. Then how to build your followers. Lastly, how to make sure you're doing everything and continuing to grow. So starting with documenting the strategy, and this is a little bit of a crossover between marketing 101, but also social media best practices. But anytime you do any kind of marketing tactic, it's important to have done this all first, and starting with understanding your audience. And I'll get to why this is all important in regards to social media. But one super simple, quick, and easy way to understand who your audience is go on and see who has left you 5-star reviews for your company, and then check out their social media profiles. That's a really great way to get a perfect understanding and a clear picture of who the true people are behind who really loves your brand or your company. Secondly, define your unique selling point. This is something that only you can say about your company. It's true to you and no one else can say it. And if you can define that and understand that, then you have your one sentence phrase as to why you're existing as a company and have a place moving forward. And then define your tone of voice. Think about how you want to come across on social media. Do you want to be a entertainer? Do you want to be a jokester? Or do you want to be like a change agent in society? Or do you want to be a thought leader? Think about like how you want to come across, because that's important when you start writing your posts and writing your content. Define your goals. What constitutes success? Is it follower growth? Is it getting people to your website? Is it booking conversions? There's a bunch of different metrics that you can keep an eye on to make sure that you're actually moving in the right direction. And then pick your platforms. One of the most valuable assets of business owners and just anyone kind of out there trying to grow right now is time. Time is very limited, so it's important that you don't scattershot all of the platforms. Pick the ones that your audience are most likely to be on. Start there. So now we've got sort of our general strategy outline. So that's your first process. Write that down in a Google document, get it defined so you can revisit it week after week. Just spend an hour getting to that point. Once you're there, all right, let's build your profiles on social media. Assuming you've picked, let's say, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as your profiles. Step one, find a username that you can own across all the platforms. Double check and make sure that your username is available on all the platforms, because that makes it super easy for people to find you across all the different platforms. If I'm Flamingo Theory Marketing and Pink Flamingo Marketing on another, people don't know that I'm the same company, and you want to make sure that you're instantly recognizable as who you are. Another kind of way to do that is to make sure you use the same profile image and banner graphic across them all as well. Just make sure that they're designed custom to each site's specs. They don't have to be super professionally graphically designed images like we have, but at the same time, if you use the exact same image across all the sites, then again, you're instantly recognizable. And then next step is, as you write your descriptions, make sure you use consistent descriptions of your business, but also take a consideration into what kind of keywords you're using in your descriptions, because Google is always watching. So even in places like your social media profiles, that will help Google understand what kind of business you are and when they should serve you up in search. Another thing too is make sure you go through and fill in all the fields of info. The social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, they serve profiles up to people who might be interested in them. Well, if you have a half completed profile, you're less likely to get served up than someone else who's done the exact same things as you. So make sure you fill it all out and have all the info there. You'll get rewarded by getting served up to more people who might want to find you. Then once you've kind of got all that taken care of, pin your best content to the top. So, whether it's an introductory post or, something that you feel really great about, or a book an appointment type message, pin it to the top. So it's the first thing people see as they start checking out your post history.
Hey, Eric, quick question. Can you
Yeah.
only have one post pinned to the top?
Yeah, and it
Or is it
depends, some
varied on-
platforms, yeah,
Okay.
and some platforms like Instagram, you can't even pin to. So, it's more like a Facebook and a Twitter thing. But it's, sorry, I just saw something in chat there. Yeah. So, yeah, and then so once you've got, your ideal messaging pinned, sign out or go to an incognito window and check out your profiles to see what it would look like from an outsider's point of view. Because sometimes when you're signed in and you're in the admin view, it shows up differently to you than it would the public. So it's always good to understand, how's this going to look to somebody who's coming in fresh. Good question, Kristen. So rule of thirds, this is something I just wanted to touch on real quickly before we start talking about the actual postings. What this is sort of a general process to follow as you write your content to ensure that you give and you get value from your network. Because, when you do social media, one thing to remember is you don't want to land too squarely in either camp. If you're constantly asking for things, buy this, book an appointment, then you come across as spammy and people are going to unfollow you. And if you're only giving value and saying, here's all this great content and great information, then, you might not get a return on your investment, whether it's your time or your, financial investment for it. So this is meant to just kind of balance that out. Rule one, the first third, entertain or inform, whether it's passing along great information or just doing something like super exciting, entertaining. Give people a reason to continuously follow you and stay engaged with you. Because if you're not if you're not entertaining them or you're not giving them value, they're just, what's the point? That's what social media is about in its nutshell, is an escape from reality and a time to just enjoy your turning off your brain. Second, third, build community. This is really using the chance to show that all of your audience is kind of they're all like-minded folks who are interested in similar things. So we're all on this and in this together. You're looking at my post because this person is too. So, there's tactics and things you can do in order to make sure that everyone's sort of coming together and having conversations and asking questions and interacting with each other. And then the last one, obviously, is the sales message. Like I said, you want to make sure you do get some value. So make sure you sprinkle in that kind of asking message every now and then. So that was just a quick overview on rule of thirds. I'll come back to that now. So we've got our strategy. We've got our profiles all set up. Time to start posting. What are we going to do for our content? So a good, kind of rule to start with is aim for about 2 to 3 posts a week. That's your general goal. I'd call that a bare minimum. It's in today's day and age, there's so much content being blasted at people on the internet that you almost can't post too much. So that's a good kind of starting point. And you can use a mix of original content and curated content. Everything doesn't have to come from your brain. If you see a great article or a great tip or something, put a 1-sentence spin on it and use that as well to post to, just to take a little bit of the pressure off you as I don't want to be thinking of unique stuff all the time. It's fine to pass things along. I should have mentioned before I started this too, that it's great to sort of plan this out in a spreadsheet or a software. So you can go through an entire month and say, this day is this post, this day is this post, this day is this post. And what that gets you your base of content. So if you don't have time ever to go on when you're, in the moment or out in the field, you at least have your solid base of content and you're continuously having that conversation. So once your content is planned out on your spreadsheet, review it against the rule of thirds. Do you generally have the right balance of everything? Again, it's not a hard and fast. It has to be a third, just ideally in that sort of camp. Most importantly, and this one is something that I think a lot of people have the hardest time with, but helps the most more than anything is being personal. Putting yourself, your own face out there in social media. We see with all of our clients, like unanimously across the board, those types of posts perform better than everything else. Use relevant hashtags. You can use, there's a number of different hashtag planning tools where you can see, what hashtags are all trending right now. And of those hashtags that are trending, which ones are relevant to the content that I'm about to post. So you want to pick the most popular hashtags that are relevant to your content to make sure you're being found by other people. And then map the post to a calendar, this post this day, this post this day, this post this day. Tweak each post to kind of fit the voice of each individual platform a little bit. So essentially, like, Twitter is shorter, snappier, more conversational, whereas Instagram is, a little more artistic and a little more kind of, it's more about the picture and less about the words. And Facebook is more about kind of like being part of a group and having those like more drawn out conversations. So, again, not massive changes to it, but just, enough to make sure that it's written for each particular platform. And then lastly, once your spreadsheet is done, you've got everything covered, schedule your posts. Essentially put them so they're ready to go out throughout the course of the month. And then at that point, you can either sit back and let them all go out, or you could start working on the next month of your hour a week, however it works. So that's how you get to the point where you got your content set. So let's say you've kind of gotten in a good groove now where it's like, all right, my first hour, I'm going to plan my content. My second hour, I'm going to schedule it. My third hour of the next, the week of this month, I'm going to do some listening and engaging. Essentially, this is how do you make sure that you're, absorbing what your audience is putting back to you. So you can, start off by reviewing like what's happening in the world. Obviously, you probably already sort of got this absorbed anyway, but, look at headlines, look at current events, trending content. What's trending on Twitter is always a great place to start, just to get the idea of what's happening in the social media sphere. Then check in on the conversations that your audience is having. So, what types of things are people posting? What are they talking about? What kind of content is interesting to them? If you use a specific software to do this, like Sendable or Hootsuite, you can set up keyword alerts that like alert you to a relevant conversation happening. So like, for example, if let's say you have a plumbing business and, one of the like, let's talk Middleton Facebook group is, and someone posted on there, does anyone know a good plumber? You can jump right in and say, hey, we're a plumbing company. We do great work. Here's a couple of happy customers, or, contact us now. And then, like and reply to activity on your pages. So if someone's posted on your page or someone's, mentioned you in a comment, make sure you like that. And then, reply if relevant too. Just because that shows people then that you're, interacting with them and they'll interact more with you back. Joining groups and answering or asking questions is another great way. This helps you really look like a thought leader in the area. So, if you're in like a, Facebook group and you see a relevant question that you know the answer to, jump in and answer it, because then people are going to see you, they're going to think of you. Every time you post, every response you make is a brand impression, and it's one you didn't have to pay for. And then importantly too is follow people who have followed you. So this is, I think, something always that gets kind of swept under the rug is, let's say you've gained 12 new followers this month. Make sure you follow them back so you hear what they're saying. Otherwise, you're not going to get the information from them. So
Hey, Eric,
next,
can we do a couple questions on that last slide?
yeah, you bet.
So when you say join the group, should you join as your business?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So like on Facebook, like you can join as like a personal profile, because they don't let you join as a business group for a lot of them.
Okay.
It kind of depends on how the group is set up. Some groups, like the admin, can set it up so businesses can join. But we like to sort of recommend setting it up and joining as like as a personal profile, and then you can mention your business and say like, here's a good business or something like that.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
I think Facebook used to have like a business page news feed. So like right now when you log in, but I'm the admin for
Yeah.
the chamber, like I see
Yeah.
my personal one. Does
Yep.
Facebook still have that? Is that where you would go to kind of see what your network is doing?
Yes. Yep. That's the best. That's where and they actually just changed it now. So you can do like a one-click switch to that profile. It
Awesome.
used to be you'd have to go onto your page and then like start reviewing it and then make sure you're responding as your business. It was really Facebook, for being such a massive like, company, or Meta now, I guess, is really is not super user friendly, but they got better with that at least. So you can switch your profile, it brings up your feed, and then you're always responding and replying as your business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, and one more.
Yeah.
So if we have a post on our page and people are tagging somebody else in the post, like in the comments, like is
Yes.
that something as the business, like they just tagged someone else, they didn't say anything, would you comment or reply to that, or be like, just
I'd like it, you could like it because it's them showing someone else that's interested in your business.
or if they say, the other one that I struggle with is if they're like, wow, look at this, so they didn't really ask a question. Like, is it creepy if I'm like, I'm watching you comment on my post? I climb back to everything. I don't want to, it's like,
yeah,
I don't know where that line is.
No, and it's definitely not creepy to go through and like or comment on postings on your page. That's definitely not going to be like, oh, that's weird, someone they liked or did something on their own page. In terms of whether or not to reply to those actual ones, it kind of depends a little bit on the situation. But like if they're just saying like to someone else, hey, you should be aware of this, you can just like it, then it's been acknowledged.
Okay.
But if they're like let's say somebody's like, hey, John, you need a plumber, you should check this page out, then you could jump on and say, John, we'd love to help you out,
Okay.
Let's talk type thing. So
Okay.
kind of
And like all those likes and comments like help the reach of the post. Is that one of the reasons to do it?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So like if I see a post and I know my friends are interested in it and I tag them, they may not have seen the post, or they may not even be following that particular business. So one, it gives them the opportunity to follow it. But another thing to keep in mind is with social media, let's say you have 1,000 followers and you post, maybe 30 of them or 40 of them at a given time actually see the post, because there's so much content all the time that every post doesn't go to every follower. So the more you post and the better you do with social media, the more your organic reach increases. So let's say one business doesn't do a very good job of responding and replying and doing all that, maybe 20 people will see their post. Whereas another business, maybe 50, who's doing a good job of, social media best practices, probably 50 of their followers will see it. The more engagement that happens on the social media platforms, the better it is for the social media businesses themselves. So, it's
Eric, I want to add to that from Kristen, ask a question, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty casual social media user. I put a lot of stuff out, but I'm not super structured. I think I'm brand consistent. I think I do the rule of thirds pretty well.
Cool.
But the way I think about it is sort of simplistic. It's like a conversation to me. And if I'm comfortable nosing into the conversation that I'm hearing over here, like in a real setting, I would do that. And I do the same thing in social media space.
Yeah.
Is that a fair way to think about it?
No, that's a great way to think. I mean, it depends if, again, it's kind of harkens back to that tone of voice. Like, do you want the tone of voice of your business to match your personal tone of voice? If so, then manage your social media the way you would personally. But if you wanted your business to be like, let's say you wanted your business to come across as a thought leader, then maybe you'd be a little more pushy about edging your way into those conversations, than you normally would in real life.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
And the nice thing about getting your content planned out throughout the course of a month is when you see those in the moment things, you can still do that stuff too. But at least there's a nice base of consistent content always happening. And then when if you're not as consistent about like, oh, I didn't get on Facebook for 4 days or didn't get on Instagram for a while, you still have the content and the interaction happening, but then when you get on, you can supplement that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Great question. Anything else, Kristen, on this slide? All
I think
right.
we're good.
All right. So, again, so you've got, let's say you got your strategy, you've got your platforms, you got your profiles, you're putting out great content. You've got 3 followers. One of them's your mom. What's the point? Well, of course, we have to build our followers, So these are some really good, just kind of step-by-step strategies in order to make sure you're catching more people, you're bringing them into your profile, they're liking and following you. Starting with follow your competitors' followers. So again, back to my plumber example, go on and find, Bill's Plumbing and Greg's Plumbing and see who's following them. You follow those people because they'll get a notification that John's Plumbing just followed me. They're probably going to follow you back then. They're interested in following plumbers. So let's start that conversation with them. So I know this is the word follow like 37 times in that sentence, but sorry. Hopefully that makes sense. Engage with influencers and, again, to one of our questions earlier about adding people on pages. Nothing wrong with that. It brings them into the conversation. So engaging with influencers is a good one too. So if there's someone who has, let's say there's someone who has, 30,000 followers and they just asked a question that you know the answer to. You answer on their timeline. There's potentially, 30,000 people who are going to see your name for the first time and maybe follow you because they liked your answer. So don't be afraid to stick your nose in with the influencers. Partner with complementing businesses. Maybe John's Plumbing could, strike a partnership and tag, kitchen remodeling company because they know once the plumbing's done in the kitchen, they need someone to remodel. And so you're not trying to steal business from each other, but you're complementing each other well. And one audience is going to be interested in the other. So if you're posting on their page and they're posting on yours, people will sort of naturally follow the both of you. Hashtags is probably the number one way for people to find other accounts, hashtagging relevant sort of topics. And then someone's like, I'm super interested in, Madison Golf. And they click on hashtag Madison Golf and you're one of the people who's used that hashtag 37 times. They'll find your account and they'll follow you. Contests and giveaways is another great one too. Give something away and say, hey, tag 2 of your friends in this and that, and you get an entry into, gift card to our restaurant or something along those lines. And then if you're at the point where you actually really want to aggressively build your audience, you can do what's called boosting content. And that means you put some paid spend behind it. So for $100, you can reach, 5,000 more people than you would have without boosting it. And yeah.
We do have a question on followers. So
All right.
is there any guidance you have about following in general? Should I follow for the sake of following or take a strategic view of following to manage the things I see?
Fantastic question. One of the big things to keep in mind is you only get as much value out of your network of people as you can get from it. So if you have followed a bunch of spammy, non-relevant accounts, you're not going to get to the stuff you really want to see. So it's good to go through every now and then and look at your followers and be like, you know what, these people just they're not in my target market. I don't want to hear what they have to say. I'll unfollow them. And it's okay for as many people as you want to follow you, but every now and then go through and just sort of, trim the fat from your followers list. I actually should have put that in here as as a bullet point. So that's a great question. I'm glad that came up. One thing is that social media platforms tend to, consider in whether or not they serve your account up is the amount of followers you have versus the amount of people you're following. Some people will be like, they'll build a bot so you can just follow 1,000 people in a day. And if you're following, 50,000 people and only 100 people are following you, the social media platform's like, that's a spam account. We're not going to serve them to anyone. So, so make sure you always want to try and, kind of, if you can, balance it out. So you're, roughly, or, you have either less followers than you do people you're following, or the way around. Last step, review, optimize, and experiment. So again, this is the reflecting at the end of the month. How did we do? Did we achieve our goals? What worked well? Review your monthly results and compare back to your goals. Make a note to double down on things that worked really well. Let's say you made a super goofy, hilarious video and it got 10 times the likes everything else did. Do more of that. Have fun with it. Don't get discouraged by down months. A lot of times, just society has times where people just aren't on social media. So if you went down 20% in a month, it could be because it was beautiful weather outside and everyone was, out living their life, not being on social media. So think of it like the stock market. As long as it goes up over time, you're doing it right. And then, once you feel like you've got everything dialed in, that's a great point to then start reaching out to some other platforms or experimenting with different types of content. Most importantly, just have fun with it. Everyone gets so serious about social media. Just enjoy it, do crazy stuff, have fun. The more fun you have, the more enjoyable you make it, the better you'll do too. So if it is truly about the results and the metrics, then make fun one of your top metrics. Same thing, be creative, let it be inspirational to you, let it be inspirational to other people. There's a lot of really good things that can come out of social media when people, put their minds together. So let's do that. And then lastly, just do it. That's another thing too. I think, a lot of times when I talk to people, they're like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. Like, the thing is like, there's so much going on that the only way you can really obviously you don't want to go viral by saying something super, super controversial and stirring up a total hornet's nest. But, general posting here and there, like, don't get too caught up in whether or not it's absolutely perfect. B- content is better than no content. So. Smash that like button, get involved, don't be afraid. If you want to, if you guys want to follow what we do, feel free to scan that QR code. And you can, follow all of our accounts just to kind of see how we take it from an agency's perspective. Hopefully we add some value to your life. And, the usual at the end of the presentation, if there's anything we can ever do to help out just from a digital media or digital marketing perspective, I love talking to small business owners in Madison. There's nothing I like more than getting the opportunity to, I don't know, just hash out some issues and come up with solutions.
Hey, Eric, this is a good time. So it looks like there's some questions flying in through chat. Do you want me to read them to you, or do you want to look at them? I'm happy to do either.
Why don't you go ahead? I'll let you, yeah.
So hashtags hidden in IG stories. I was told to do this a couple years ago. Is that still used in the algorithm?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Also a really good question. So what that means is, sometimes you'll see a post and at the end of the post, there's, 6,000 hashtags. And you're like, I didn't even read any of the content because there's so many hashtags there. A good tip, kind of a good little secret way to sort of still have the hashtags be relevant, but not have them obscure the content of your post, is to put them as the first comment. So post without the hashtags, and then you as the business, as the same person who just posted, put the first comment down there and put all your hashtags in there. So that way they still show up in the searches, but they're not getting in the way of your content. So hopefully that answers the question. Feel free to throw a no in chat or just jump in now, whoever asked that, if it didn't, but.
What's the ideal follows to followed ratio?
Also a great question. So it's better to have more people following you than you're following. I don't know if there's necessarily we don't shoot for an ideal ratio, but it's tough because when you're starting out, you have to follow more people than you're following in order to build your audience. So you just want to make sure you never cross over that threshold of we've added too many accounts in one day and now our account got flagged as a bot or spam or got shut down. So as you're getting started, don't have more than, don't follow more than 10 to 1, I guess. And then as you start growing and you're getting bigger, you want to slowly ramp down the ratio. So your followers are, say you've got 5 followers to every 1 you're following. So, yeah, hopefully that helps. Again, it's kind of that phase of like where you're at in your social media life cycle. Yeah.
What is your favorite scheduling tool?
We like Sendable. It's got a lot of really good features. Like it's got keyword alerts. It has really good, easy to use software. It brings up, it gives hashtag suggestions based on like some really good AI tools. And it, for a features to price standpoint, I think it's like the best overall. A Hootsuite is probably the best, but it's like so expensive that it's hard for, I guess, kind of the smaller agencies to afford it. You
Do you have like a ballpark in what it costs? What did you Sendable?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Sendable, yeah.
Okay.
So Sendable actually, like if you're not an agency and you're just a business, you don't necessarily need the software, the social media tools, but Sendable is $29 a month for up to 6 accounts. As an agency, when we start getting into like 20, 30 different accounts, then it gets up to like 500 to 1,000 a month. So it's when you start getting that really big level, but like for small business owners, it's super affordable. So yeah, Sendable is worth checking out. Hootsuite's the gold standard, but it's the most expensive. And I feel like just from an overall value, Sendable wins for us.
So one other question here. I was told it was not a good idea to post the first comment on your own post. Is that
Okay.
true?
Things are always changing, I mean, there's always that's why we test and kind of review our results. A lot of times with these companies, they're not publishing their best practices. So Instagram doesn't say you should post them in the comments or you should post it in the content. You kind of got to just watch it and say like, oh, across the board, like from our perspective, all of our accounts that we've been posting in the comments, we're not getting served up as much as we used to. Let's try putting it back in the content now and see if that fixes the problem. You can always Google those questions too, but there's never going to be like a set answer, like this answer is the answer. It's always the answer because they're going to be evolving their algorithms and changing how their business models work too. So,
Eric, I've got a question for you around virality versus top of mind local. Many of the businesses that are my clients or myself, Middleton Chamber of Commerce, we work in a very small fish pond. And we may never achieve virality, and that's always what's talked about. But many people, myself included, might put a post out that generates anywhere from 50 to 500 to 2,000 views and maybe 10 or 100 likes, let's just say.
Sure.
I've always believed that top of mind was my goal in my fish pond. But how do you think about that as an expert in the area?
Yeah, I mean, on the local business, kind of small business stage, you probably don't want the goal of going viral. It might be a bad reason, it's almost impossible to really achieve that true, like we're the one person who went viral on a national scale for a good thing. Like I feel like these days you're more likely to go viral for a bad reason than you are. So really it's more about looking back every month and are you continuously growing? Because like you said, in your case, let's say you're getting 2,000 impressions every month on a post. And then the next month you're getting 2,200, and the next month you're getting 2,400. It means you're doing things right, and your influence within your particular pond is growing, and that's what we want. Because we're never gonna, I mean, most people aren't really trying to compete on a national scale. You're trying to compete with your local competitors, So someone who's coming up against you might get, half as many impressions. As long as you've surpassed them, you're doing better and you're beating your true competition.
To that point, like you talk about growing impression counts. I view that most businesses that are local are a solution waiting for a problem to happen. So we're always here. Someone's going to need a small business coach at some point in time. I just need enough impressions going through the pipeline so that enough people think about me at the right times that I capture some part of that demand, right?
Yep.
So if I'm generating 2 or 3 or 5,000 impressions that are connected to my brand and my service over the course of a month, and I do that same rate every month, give or take a little ebb and flow in the economy or the good weather or what have you, do I have to be growing it, or is it okay just to kind of settle in at a reasonable amount of impressions to keep myself afloat, if you will, at the top of mind state?
Let's see, that would link back to your goals, what you want out of your social media account. If and just for your business in general. Like, let's say your number one goal for your business is growing awareness of your business. People haven't heard of you, they need to hear of you. There's better tools than social media to grow awareness. Social media is better for like building an impression of your brand, because people who follow you already know you exist. So they're not necessarily finding out about you through social media, but they're deciding that they like you and they like your brand, and they kind of, I don't know, okay, this guy has really good ideas, I think I might take a look at some of the products he has, and it's a good reminder that you exist. So if you're looking for awareness, paid advertising is a great tool for that, like paid Facebook ads. It'll reach people who don't follow you, and will make them aware that you exist. And then you use your social media to sort of build your brand presence as you go with the people you like, or who like you, sorry. But to your point too, I think you should always be striving to grow, though. I think and I know that's obviously like a kind of a generic answer, but I think at the same time, the business landscape is just changing so fast that, if you don't grow and you stay stagnant, you'll get passed up. And then in a few years, it's kind of, you become sort of irrelevant. So it's just picking the right ways to try and grow, because it's a zero-sum game.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good
Another
question.
question for you. So at one point I had heard that the goal would be to post your content or whatever and let it grow organically for like a few days and see what you can get that way before you boost it. Is that true? Does it matter?
Yeah. And that is, I always recommend like boosting content. Yeah, that's exactly the process for doing it. Is go back at the end of the month and review your best performing content, and then choose from that to boost, because you don't want to boost something that people aren't interested in. And if it hasn't performed well organically, chances are, everything has its own situation, but chances are it won't perform well when you throw money behind it either.
Yeah.
So
does it work the opposite? Like if it grew really good organically and then you throw money behind, will it do really good? Or is there not maybe a correlation?
Well, I know, I feel like every time I say something, I always start with it depends, but you got to look at the content you're boosting too. Let's say you did a super goofy viral video type post and it was really well received. If you put money behind it, people are going to be like, where did this come from? I don't understand who this brand is. I don't get the point behind the video. Whereas like if it's something that sort of naturally leads them into following you, it's probably going to do better with paid, because you got to remember, when you're doing the paid, you're reaching people who probably don't know you exist then. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind when you decide what to boost.
Okay. I have another question if nobody else.
Yeah.
You guys. So I know that on Facebook, there's a way when someone likes your post, you can then go in and invite them to like your page.
Mm-hmm.
Does that option exist on Instagram?
Ooh, good question. Honestly, I don't.
That would be
know.
great.
Yeah, I don't, not that I'm aware of, but
Okay.
I can ask my social media managers and see if they know. I was just trying to think of like ways to invite people to like your page on Instagram. I don't, as far as I know, no. But I'll follow back on that. It's a good one.
Any other questions, you guys?
I was just thinking, like, you could DM them with like a link to your page and say follow it, but they have to accept your DM from someone who they're not following already before they see what's in the content. So that would be one way you could do it. Chances are they're probably going to ignore your comment or your DM, but it's worth a shot.
Cool. Well, Eric, if you don't mind going to that last slide, I'll kind of round us
Yes.
out, but then we're going to stay on you guys for any other questions that you kind of think of. So other chamber events coming up this month that we'd love to see you at. We're doing 7 strategies for overcoming unconscious bias. That will be on the 26th of this month. That day is also when we're doing the chamber ribbon cutting and open house. So we hope you can join us from 4 to 6 that night. And buy your tickets to Sip Sample Socialize. We'd love to have you guys there. And thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to TDS and Upper Iowa University. Huge shout out to Eric for sharing his expertise and time and resources with us today. Thank you. And thank you to all of you guys for attending. We hope you learned a couple new things for social media. So love to have you guys stay on. If anyone else has any questions, I think Deb did have another one in chat here.